Welcome back. My name's Hans and I have a project in mind and I thought I'd bring you guys along. So I have this. It's from my bathroom at home. It was there when I moved in. It's literally just a backplate with 4 hooks for hanging your towels and it works fine. It's great. It doesn't have to be more complicated. But I want to make my own and I want to do some changes. When I'm on the toilet at home, it's literally in eye level, just in front of me. So I'm thinking, why not have a shelf? So the backing plate towards the wall and then a not very deep shelf for putting your phone, your iPad or your book or your magazine, just like a resting place for when you're not reading or whatever. So this is pretty much the shape of the handle for a shoehorn that I make, and this is the end of it, and it's kind of like knob shaped, and I think it would go pretty well as a knob for a hook or just hanging things, and I'm sure it works better there as a pull for like drawers and things, like a knob like that, but you can also hang things. All right, let's have this thing. It's basically a spring, and inside is the shape of this end. So you pretty much pre-shape your material and then you make it kind of fit, you put it in and you use it under the power hammer and you just kind of twist back and forth. So I thought I would just try it and see where it leads. So yeah, let's start the forge. All right, so here's 20mm square round bar. That's what I use to forge my shoehorns. And so the first thing I'm going to do is actually strike down the corners to bring them down a bit, because this is not flat on the top. It's actually domed quite a bit. And if I were to put something entirely flat into my dies, I might have a divot in the middle because the material is gonna fill out the mold basically. And after I've done that, I'm actually gonna go to the power hammer and I'll try to put up the camera out there. And I'm gonna first pre-shape. I'm gonna have to thin down the material to use it in the dies. All right. So I just ran into the problem of having no memory. Not me physically, but the phone to store the video. So that's new. But here's the result after using the dice. No major flashing. There's a tiny nib on the end. You can see that. It's kind of hard. I will just forge that down. You can use a file or whatever. I'm gonna clean this up. I'm gonna forge it by hand using my rounding hammer. It's a round face, and finding the same radius on the horn. I'll clean this up, crisp corner, crisp edge, and also I will forge on this side as well to crisp up the face of it. Maybe you saw me put on a chain around the anvil. And it was actually, I removed it yesterday because I didn't think it were doing anything. But now when I started hitting the anvil today, the like high-pitched noise was just too much. So I put it back on, and it's a lot better again for everyone. Now I have an issue because I want to cut this and forge a tenon on it. And that means I have to hold like the knob part with a pair of tongs, because it's going to be very short. I'm going to have to forge on it. So I'm going to have to find a pair of tongs that works. So I found these. I mean, I made these. I made them to hold chain link, when I forge chain link. Small stock, round. Does it well. But I want to hold out here. This is what I want to do. And have a pretty good grip. And problem with that is I have no control this way, so any hit like this is just gonna fly away. So I'm thinking that maybe I can just file a divot or whatever in this to help hold like the round part to make it sit in it, and then maybe it won't be able to twist around as much. Right, so I tried cutting a groove into this, and it's just not gonna work. It won't be good enough. So I'm just gonna make a new pair of tongs. I'll show some of it, I guess. I'm not gonna put focus on it because that's not, well, this video is about the whole process, but it's gonna be way too long if I'm gonna explain all of it. I'll do that in another video because that's interesting as well. All right, it didn't go as I wanted to really, but there's an impression, or whatever you want to call it. Power hammer comes down kind of like this. I like to shove the material either direction, and I didn't really hold the pace exactly like I wanted, but I think it will do. It does hold. There's some wiggle room, but it won't go out, like fly out. So that's more of an annoyance rather than a large problem. So I think this will work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this, and then I will be able to hold it with my new tongs. And then I'm gonna make a tenon. And a tenon is basically a sharp step where your material just becomes smaller, allowing it to pass through a hole and then being riveted on the other side. So this is the end of the knob over here. Sorry, over here. And so I'm going to use the butcher dice of a guillotine and basically squeeze a neck into it. And then after that, I'm going to flatten it out. So here you can clearly see the step. So this sharp edge you want flat against whatever plate you're riveted onto. And this could be the back side, which you make a rivet head on. So yeah, so I'm going to use the butcher dice, then the flat dice in the guillotine tools. And then I'm actually going to use what we call a monkey tool. It basically looks like a hammer, but a hole on it. And here you put the tenon, and then you can hammer on this end while holding the material, and it will clean up these edges. Otherwise it can easily be, as in the picture, kind of rounded. And you don't want that. You kind of want just flat against whatever you're riveting on. All right, so here's the thing. I made a tenon. The imprint is not as pretty on this edge, which is a problem. So it kind of ruined the crisp edges. But I think I can live with that. I think I can clean it up by using a small tongs, and I can hold on to the tenon, and I can literally just go back into what I did earlier, clean it up just quickly, or just go for a really rough finish. These edges are very sharp on the front, so I actually have like gouges in the material from pushing here, and the edges of the jaws I actually dig it into the material. So these, but that just can file down. That I can file down. Yeah, I think this could be something. I've run out of time, so I'm going to continue tomorrow. All right, it's a new day, and I've done some cleanup off camera. We had two issues. the edges of the jaws were just too sharp, so I rounded them out with a file. The imprint were not very, was kind of messy, because whenever I forged this, I kind of held it in different angles, which creates several grooves in which this corner is held. That's kind of what messed this up whenever I applied a lot of force while holding it in those different grooves, because it was kind of moving in those. So I went in with a small drill bit, or a Dremel, like a different abrasive bits on a small Dremel, basically a drill, and just cleaned it up. I twisted it a bit when I forged the tenons. You can also see I kind of forced the material while twisting it, and then created a kind of weak point. So I'll have to keep that in mind. So let's do some more. All right, so I made 3 more, and here they are. They are very rough. So these are about between 7 and 8 millimeters. Now, I don't have an 8 millimeter punch. This is a 5 mil. So I'm gonna have to punch it and then drift it to make it large enough to get the tenons through. So yeah, so let's do that. I'm gonna have to start by punching from the back side, because whenever you wanna punch the slug out, you have to do it over a hole. You have the clearance behind, and I can't do it like this. I have to start on this side. The other leg of the angle iron outside of the anvil, and then when I punch it out, I can do it from the inside of the Pritchell hole. Okay, so kind of annoying working with angle iron. Haven't done much. It's pretty much the first time I tried forging it in any kind of manner. But I got the holes. Just these in like this. They go through. These will have to be trimmed, cut off to the appropriate length, and then I can rivet them. I don't want this to just be angle iron. I want kind of a bowl in this piece, and it's gonna be tricky to hold. But I think using flat bit tongs and holding from the side, I have this outside of the anvil, it won't interfere as much with the rest of it. As to, I can work this while still holding it outside. You don't see that on that side, but okay, so I got the angle iron. I've cut a sunk, counter sunk the holes from the backside. That leaves room for the rivet head. When I rivet this, you want material to hold it back, hold it onto the plate. And then I can just grind this flush, so it can sit flush against the wall. We have this in the shop, which kind of holds this, so I can use it as a something to hold against whenever I rivet on the oven. And hopefully it won't ruin the faces of these knobs too much. Right, here it is. It's not finished. I need a finish on it, and I'm thinking blacken it with pine tar. The same kind of tar you use on old houses, fences, boats. And so you burn it black, and then go over it with some very fine sandpaper, just a little bit to bring out the tops, and leaving all the valleys dark. And then after that I will go over it with some lacquer, just some spray lacquer, just to make it more water resistant. It's going to be in my bathroom, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, so I put one coat of lacquer, just a spray lacquer, since I removed some of the pine tar with the sandpaper to bring out the highlights of the rough forging. The pine tar burning, blackening it with pine tar or tar, it's actually a very historic way of preventing corrosion. But since I exposed the metal with the sandpaper, I needed to prevent rust in a more modern way as well, since it's going to be in my bathroom. Am I satisfied? Yeah, I think so. It's very rough, kind of what I expected. This is what I started with, or what I had. It's weird light. This is what I will have from now on. And yeah, we have to see if it works. These knobs, they were kind of I had the shelf hook thing project in mind because I wanted it for myself, but I also wanted to test the ends of my shoehorn as knobs, as kind of a clothing hook. If that would work and if there's any potential, and I think so. I would have to make a couple of dedicated tools for making these, a backing plate for riveting that actually has the same radius as these domed faces, most like 8.5 millimeter round punch, so I don't have to drift, just punch and no drifting, to not distort the material. And also most likely a guillotine tool dedicated for making 8mm tenons. So instead of flat dies, you have like a round die at 8mm. So you forge until you get down to 8mm round, and then you won't be forging anymore. It's just done. But I think so. The shelf thing, I'm not sure if it's practical. But just the knobs as an assortment on a backing plate with just chamfered edges, I think it would look great for hanging like your hoodie, your jacket, or just clothes. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments and I will do my best to answer. See ya. Alright, we are now in my bathroom at home. Here's the bathroom sink, the toilet, and straight in front of the toilet we have the hook shelf. I'm gonna sit down on the toilet. This is literally eye level. And I'm gonna be honest, it worked out perfectly. Much better than I thought. I used the same holes as the other one were mounted. You can even see those screws almost. I don't want to drill in the bathroom wall or scrape. Just putting a book. Try and get a view of this. So yeah. I really like it.